everyone. Welcome. I'm going to start off with a roll call attendance. Brianna Quinn.
Yes, here.
Courtney Meyer.
Here.
Irene Costello.
Here.
Mary Carney.
Here.
And I, Diana West, am here. So first thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes from January 28th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, roll call vote again. Get ready. Brianna Quinn.
Yes.
Courtney Meyer.
Yes.
Irene Costello.
Yes.
Mary Carney.
Yes.
And I, Diana West, vote yes. All right, Alex has joined us to talk about the end of the virtual meetings dispensation. So I'm going to ask for a motion to move that to now in the meeting if I hear no objections to that. So I move to move up in the agenda item under new business called expiration of special COVID-19 provisions for virtual meetings. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All right, roll call vote again. Courtney Meyer. You're talking and you're on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Irene.
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Brianna.
Yes.
Thank you. And I also vote yes. Okay, so couple of notes that I had, and I'd also sent this around to folks. So as of March 31st, as it stands right now, the special dispensation to have virtual and hybrid meetings will expire. This was added during COVID. I have reached out to both Senator Comerford and Representative Gomez about this. Senator Comerford's office did get back to me, both via email and voicemail, and they are working on it behind the scenes. I also understand that Governor Healy has submitted legislature that includes it, and the House and the Senate will need to vote on that. I emailed around a sample script if you are interested in reaching out to Comerford and Gomez about extending this or even codifying it right into open meeting law. As it stands right now with open meeting law, from what I understand, you can have people call into a meeting. However, you have to have a quorum of commission members present and the chairperson has to be present. So as we have been meeting virtually almost every single meeting since 2020, this would be a big change for us. I personally have been able to continue my work with the commission because we've been meeting virtually. So, I mean, I leave it up to you for what you would like to do in terms of reaching out. Senator Comerford's office said that testimonials help. The more people they hear from, the better. And I turn it over to Alex to see what he has to share.
Yes, so just a quick update on that bill. Senator Comerford did co-sign or petition onto SD 1850. So definitely make sure everyone sends a thank you to the senator. They always like thank yous. Yeah, and just look out for any of those hearings that's when it comes down the road. It's also in the municipal empowerment bill that Governor Healy has put out. However, the Senate and the House are very late at setting up committees. I believe they have a rules committee already. They have their temporary committee, so they'll be assigning people to the normal committees coming up very soon. So pretty much what I'm looking for from the committee at the moment is time, place, and if you can be in the COA, that'd be preferred because that's the only building we have key access to. And if there's any technical needs that y'all will need.
Okay. So
are you asking us for where we're going to continue having these meetings in person somewhere in the town that
Correct.
require your services?
Correct.
Oh,
So I do have a question about that, Alex. Prior to COVID, when we did meet in person, we didn't have, our meetings were not recorded, and we didn't have any technology. So is it a requirement to record them in some way? I was understanding that we needed to provide the minutes, but for an in-person meeting, I wasn't sure for our commission.
Technically, it's not required, but we do it anyways. We since I came aboard, we've grown all the all the smaller committees. Matter of fact, we're actually adding an agriculture commission and a cemetery committee to our coverage list. It's not a terrible thing to have your meeting be recorded. You can, because once it's recorded, obviously you can tell someone to go back and say, hey, this is what really happened in the meeting, instead of hearsay, he said, she said, all that type of stuff. So there are benefits to it. I know it's a little awkward at first when we see that big camera in the room, but most people do get used to having that big camera in the room, and it's very beneficial. It's actually also good for minutes too. So,
So since it's been such a long time since we've really had regular in-person meetings, who do I need to reach out to in the town to book our space and see what's available for us?
So yes, so if you were to book a space at COA, you'd reach out to Michelle or Violet. And then if you need to book a space in the library, which is also another option, you would reach out to anyone, either Patrick or Susan. I believe Susan's the person to talk to. And you have to make sure that the building will be open for us.
Okay. Does anyone ever meet inside the Goodwin?
No, but that could be an option.
Okay.
However, the technology could be a little tricky at first, but we could figure something out. I'd say if you needed someone to come in and show a PowerPoint.
Okay, good to know.
You would have to just let me know and I'll figure something out.
Okay. So it wasn't on the agenda tonight to discuss all those details. However, since we do have a little bit of time in terms of hoping that things go through at the state level about virtual meetings, I will put this on our March agenda to at least figure out location. Our meeting time is typically the fourth Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock. We do sometimes discuss moving it to the third Tuesday just based on schedules and what works best for the group. But if that is an issue on your end, then we can try to keep to that same schedule.
No, even Thursday is all right for us. Mainly the reason I'm doing this is just to get a grasp on when and where people are going to be so that we're more prepared. I'm not looking to try to control when you meet unless it's 4 different committees that are going to meet at the same time. But I don't think that's going to happen on the third Tuesday. So like I said, I'm not trying to control your meetings or where your meetings are. I'm just trying to be here as a resource and make sure that our operations are also running smoothly at the same time.
Great.
I have a question.
Yep.
Okay, so the letters to our state reps are to try to extend the virtual meetings in some capacity, or is that right?
Yes.
That was the sample letter you sent? Okay. And what's the ETA on anybody making a decision about that?
Well, it expires March 31st. So the hope is that it would happen before then. But as Alex just mentioned, things are moving slowly at the State House. So, I mean, I would say the sooner the better you can get it in. That just gives Senator Comerford and Representative Gomez a little bit more information that they can then share with other senators and representatives and hopefully convince them to support these actions. I didn't put this in the sample letter, but something like, in my opinion, this has really improved accessibility and inclusion on these committees. I would say since we started meeting virtually, we've had so many more guests come to our meetings. I think I'm the only one left from before COVID. And I mean, we would meet and occasionally a select board member would join us, but really rarely anyone else would come to those meetings for us. And I think we've done really great work by being able to meet virtually and have people hop on when they're able to. And that's just has made it, like I said, more accessible for them. And I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I know a lot of us have really busy lives. Many of us are working full-time jobs. This, I think, has allowed many of us to have better access to the commission, provide more of ourselves than if we needed to meet in person. And it gives us that flexibility of perhaps balancing childcare at home with being on the meeting. And that unfortunately would no longer be an option if we move back to just in-person meetings.
And another question. So do the in-person meetings require a quorum? So if there's 7 of us on the committee, at least 4 have to show up in person?
Correct.
And the other 3 could participate online?
That's what I understand reading open meeting law. Within the language, it said the chief executive officer had to approve that, but I'm not sure what that means because I don't know who the town's CEO would be. Do they mean chairperson? Do they mean the select board? Do they mean the town administrator? That language is just a little confusing to me.
I would reach out to Jessica Spanknable.
Okay.
She'd probably give you a better answer on how all that works. That's why I've been telling a lot of people that, for clarification, what I've been saying, to reach out to her or Jennifer Sanders. She would know too.
Okay.
And to give you a little history, Irene, these bills and similar bills have been in different sessions since COVID. So a timeline for these types of bills to actually pass could take years. I mean, our community media bill is in its 4th session right now. So it could take a while for a bill to become law.
Okay, thank you. And Diana, are you resigning from the committee because you can no longer participate in person as the chair?
So,
or for other reasons?
So I will bring up that if this doesn't pass, then we absolutely need to have a different chairperson because I will not be able to lead meetings virtually. I made the decision to resign at the end of June just because I feel as though I have other responsibilities I need to attend to. And at this point, I think I've given, it'll be 7 years to the commission. So I think it's time to roll off and let somebody else have a chance.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter. This new ruling doesn't impact your decision to
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, any other questions about this or comments?
I mean,
All right, well,
sorry,
go
just
ahead.
in my experience too, like in another organization or board committee that I'm on for the town, like our attendance has been overwhelmingly different and participation since being able to do virtual and Zoom and even hybrid meetings. So, I mean, I do hope kind of it continues.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually hope it continues too. I just have to make sure I follow the law also.
Mm-hmm.
And also, here is a resource if any of the boards and committees need it too. So.
You bet.
All right, thank you so much, Alex.
You're welcome. Let me know if you have any questions in the meantime. Yeah, have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. All right, back up to preservation plan summary. Chris Skelly is here as well. So I sent around the route that I mapped out. Does anybody have any feedback? I can share my screen in case people forget.
I didn't map it. I just read it. So it seems thorough.
Thank you.
Now, did we have any update on where we're actually going to be starting, if we should meet at Valley Transporter or if we are going to be meeting at the library or senior center?
Okay, so yes, the update on that is to provide a little background, we reached out to Valley Transporter to rent a van, and they quoted us one number for the 3 hours, and then they came back and said, oh, well, actually, there's commuting time, so we're going to charge you for a whole other hour for that commute. And I said, no, you're not. And so we negotiated with them, and I offered that we all meet there to avoid this extra charge. And they said, no, we will decrease the charge. So the total is $437, which includes that commuting time. And thank you to Dragon for helping with those negotiations. And so originally Dragon had booked a space for us in the library, but it only had a maximum of 8 people for the space. Unfortunately, the senior center isn't open on Saturdays, so we can't book a space in there. So we looked into it, and as long as we publicly post it, which we're already planning on, and we don't meet in a room with religious iconography, that's not quite right, but that's okay. We can meet in a church. So we have booked space at the First Congregational Church. Dragon and I and Sherry are all members there, so we are all very familiar with the space. Brian Harper, the custodian, has also graciously offered to set up the space for us and loan us a microphone and speaker. So that will provide better accessibility. And so we will start at the town hall / church.
Great. Looks good to me.
Any other thoughts on the route?
I appreciate how it kind of loops up to Mill Valley and then comes back down Route 9 and then goes on East Street. I think that'll be a nice, and then up to North Hadley. Like, I don't know how you thought of that kind of nice throughout the entire town, but it'll be good.
I spent a lot of time staring at Google Maps.
Yeah, you sure did.
It's gonna be a beautiful drive.
I mapped it out first, and then I was like, oh, I forgot Aqua Vita. I forgot parts of Route 9. And then there were some streets where I had to double check there was nothing that we needed to see on them because I was avoiding them. Yeah. So lots of thought went into this. So also based on Chris's recommendations, I put together an agenda for the day. 1 second. So my one thought to add would be if we want to have sort of a debrief time to just talk about the tour. I kind of foresee that people will chat a little bit during lunch, but I would like to have a record of that conversation and make sure it is part of the discussion in the afternoon. So I don't know if we want to like slip something in between my introduction and Chris's presentation so it's as fresh in our minds as possible, or just make our discussion a little bit longer to include those thoughts.
And is this a free form conversation amongst, whoever's there, talking freely, or it's not part of?
I think our discussion about the tour is a little more free flowing, free form, like you said. I think once we do the general discussion, I believe Chris will have some leading questions for us to think about.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll come prepared with a whole bunch of questions to ask you and whoever else shows up.
Diana, is Railroad Street listed?
That is one. We could fit that in. When we're doing the north end of the common with North Lane,
Mm-hmm.
we could loop that around.
Might want to cut through to go back through the center of town because crossing Route 9 at West Street can be challenging.
Sure can. Also, in the moment, we can be a little fluid with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess instead of sometimes crossing right there at West Street, we could take a right onto Route 9 and then a left onto Aqua Vita. I don't know. Up by Sportsman, but we'll figure it out.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
All right, so adding in here just sort of like a 15, 20-minute remuneration on the tour.
Sure.
Okay. I'll add that in after and fix my formatting.
Or it can be, can it be discussion during lunch where we're all going to be chatting? Is that off
So
record or-
my thought is for that is we are not going to open up lunch to the general public. So I want this discussion to be on the up and up, if you will, with open meeting law, to be during that time that is advertised to the general public, and we make sure that we're taking a record of it.
So who's leading the discussion for this part?
I think I mean, I can lead it. It'll mainly just be people sharing their thoughts after the tour.
So just you'll facilitate a little
Yeah.
discussion. Okay,
That's fine.
that sounds good.
All right, next up is the most important part of the day, and that's lunch. So,
My favorite subject.
exactly. I think there should be 10 of us for lunch if Alan and Andy do come. So what are we thinking? I looked up sandwich platters from Atkins. They run in the $70 to $100 range. We could pre-order a pizza from Primo. I think I kind of want to avoid a potluck because we won't be at the church if there's anything hot to monitor crock pots or the 100-year-old warming oven. So it really is 100 years old. I'll show it to you. I'm open to suggestions. Clearly, you guys don't think about lunch as much as I do.
We could look into Hot Table. They also have sandwiches. I'm not sure if they'll be any cheaper.
No offense, Ivan. I was trying to avoid sort of the everyone gets their own thing because I think that will ultimately be a more expensive option. But I guess that will depend if anybody tells me they have dietary restrictions that I can't work with.
I do, but I can pack my own lunch if that's an issue.
Is there any issue in terms of picking it up? I mean, is it easier to do sandwiches that can sit around and be cold for a while, or is it not?
Yeah, I can pick up the sandwiches from Atkins in the morning before we get started. That's really easy for me to do. Pizza from Primo, we could add Primo as our final stop on the tour to get the pizza, right? Or people can be setting up paper products and someone else can run up the road to Primo to get a pizza. And I'm sure I could talk to Fonzie the night before about having that ready at noon.
Yeah, he's good for that. Would we want people to bring like other cold items? Like if someone was maybe really great at making deviled eggs or something, or a salad?
Are you supplying the eggs, Rick?
I could. Hmm,
To be honest, I don't think I will have time to make deviled
get it.
eggs.
but they're the best. Ugh.
Are we okay with just some like chicken salad sandwich, that kind of thing from Atkins? All right.
Yep.
Do I have a motion to use our funds to make these purchases?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Can't see you all, so I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, roll call vote. Mary,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Dragon,
Yep.
Courtney,
Yes.
Irene.
Yeah.
And I vote yes. We do have to back up a second. We did not officially vote to spend our money on the van. So do I have a motion to approve that charge out of our annual budget?
Yes.
So moved.
And okay, that's a yes in a second. Good enough for me. Mary,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Dragon,
Yes.
Courtney,
Yes.
Irene,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Dragon, can you ask them for like an actual invoice I can give to the town?
Yep.
Because I think the town will want that.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Okay. So other supplies we need for the day. I'm going to order those giant Post-it posters. I've already collected some regular Post-its and pens. I've reached out to the assessor's office about giant maps of Hadley, which is something Chris requested we have. I have not heard back, so I might poke them again tomorrow. Or we might have to figure out how to print them off of the Access GIS site. I'm thinking we can use our CPA money to fund printing those, as it is directly related to the project. And Chris also asked me to do a write-up of just an understanding of what his role is in this, and so I know I owe that to him, and I will work on that. What else am I forgetting? What else do we still need to do? Chris, do you have anything to share? You're on mute.
Where do we leave it in terms of the public being invited?
Yes, so I will put together that information and have the town post it. Do we want to put it on the Hadley Facebook groups? Do we want to extend an invitation to the select board or any other specific boards, committees, commissions?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, I think the select board.
Information gathering, correct?
I'm sorry.
It's information gathering. We're not coming to any conclusions or, right?
Yeah, it's
No.
all meant to be discussion.
I think it'd be nice to have a select board member participate in some way, because I think it would be great to engage them a little bit more in our work.
We already know Andy, who serves on the CPA committee, wants to come. Do you think that's another group I should invite specifically?
Andy
mean-
from Historical Society?
No, Andy Morris
that's Alan.
Friedman. Alan's from the Historical Society. Yep.
I would say there's a lot of crossover because historical preservation is like one of the three primary ways that CPA can be applied.
Mhm.
So I do think there's a lot of, I think more than just Andy might want to come, you know?
Yeah, also then if we apply for any future projects, they might be more likely to be on board.
Very true.
Mhm.
Back to lunch for just a second. Are we fine with just water to drink, or do I need to source another beverage?
I'm
Water's
always,
great.
I'm good with water.
I'm good with water.
I mean, we could always do like a box of Joe from Dunkin' or something like that if people want coffee.
I'm not a coffee drinker, so that never occurs to me.
Me either. But just in case people
Me
need-
How
neither.
accommodating of you, Brianna.
I always just go with the box of Joe. Just bring the coffee. Somebody will want it.
Okay. Anything else that has to do with this day that we need to figure out right now?
Chris, any other supplies you can think of that might be helpful aside from the map?
Tim, Dan, what again were we bringing for large boards that we could write things on? Or, I mean, I have an easel with a big Post-it note sheets that I can bring too.
Oh, so I don't need to buy them? They're
No, I
kind
can
of
bring one.
expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And
That
then I
would be
have an
perfect.
easel. So maybe we're good just with that.
In the church dining room, there are these really big bulletin boards that are ideally wheel around. They are also probably 100 years old, so take that with a grain of salt. But we can use them as well. We can stick things on them.
Okay.
Do we
I
need
have a pretty big,
markers?
from my last meeting, I have a big collection of black Sharpie markers
Oh,
from
wonderful.
my last meeting, so I'm all set there too.
We'll have a screen and a projector set up
Okay.
too.
Yep. Okay, yes, that's important. Yes.
Um, hey, anything else? Last call. Well, if anybody thinks of anything in the next week, reach out to me and we will coordinate that. Please try to be as punctual as possible next Saturday. I say that as somebody who is always late. So I'll also do my very, very best. So just so we can fit as much everything in as we can in the time period.
And where actually are we meeting at Town Hall? Is that the
Town hall and the church. Yep.
And we can park there?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, Saturday. They're not open.
Town hall's not open.
So there'll
We're
be
the only
plenty of
thing going on at the church.
perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming.
Okay,
Um,
great. Great. Well, we can be in touch beforehand, but I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Great.
All right. Well, have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We'll see you soon.
I guess actually the one other thing we should talk about in regards to this is how are people doing on their homework?
I have some interesting updates I saw on the tour you were talking about going on Meadow Street in North Hadley. I was there and ran into a woman because I was having trouble locating some of the items on that street. And she spoke to me for a very long time. She was really, really nice. Her name was Maria, I think. And she told me about all this drama about houses getting torn down on the street. And there's another house that's abandoned and blah, blah, blah. There's like a whole history behind the historical situation, I guess I would put it, on that street. So that is like, you know, River Drive is a little bit more straightforward, although there's a lot of doubles on River Drive as well, like many addresses for one place, like the Porter Phelps Huntington and that kind of thing, and old barns and blah blah blah. But that road specifically, it's kind of an odd one for the tour because it's also a dead end and it's going to be a little challenging to turn around, and the houses are, anyway, it's like a weird, I learned it's a weird, it's just kind of a strange situation. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any more like intel on, I know there's been like a lot of things that have been torn down in North Hadley previously, but this seemed to be like private tear downs more than public tear downs.
So, we can definitely take a detour down that Meadow Street. This is what I was actually referring to, and I don't think this is the actual name of it. One second. Is this section of road, which has the name Meadow Street, but I still think it's part of Roosevelt.
That's where it changes into Amherst. That's the town of
Okay.
Amherst. That's not Hadley.
Okay.
Oh,
I was confused because according to this map, the green is Hadley and this is Amherst.
Yeah, but it's not.
I believe
It
you.
changes into Amherst right there because I remember that someone was on my green bus right there when it changes Knightley Road and Roosevelt, and we couldn't go past there. Like we didn't drive up past JJ's and then take a left onto Russellville.
Is
I like turned around on the loop.
I thought J&J was in Hadley though. No, it's in Amherst. Huh. Interesting.
And then right by on Russellville by like Curious Oil, right before there ish is where you see the like entering the old entering town of Hadley sign that's like really rusted.
So the tour does take us on these streets just to create an easier route around. So we will not meet a force field that will turn us around.
Okay, you know which Meadow Street I'm talking about though, right?
Yes,
It's, like,
you
right-
are talking about
The one by North Hadley Church.
Yes, exactly. Right across
Yeah.
the street from that.
you're talking about this one.
Yeah, that's interesting over there. Very interesting things going on that street apparently.
I had a friend who lived down there when I was a kid.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know it existed until I went to do my homework and was like, oh, look at this. This is new.
I'm not sure this is actually a street, but you know.
No, so that's someone has a sign at the end of their driveway that says Google Maps is wrong. Turn around.
I got in trouble courtesy Google Maps once in an area I wasn't familiar with. And I was like, you need one of those signs. All right. So back to the agenda. So how are other people doing on their homework? Looks like Sherry uploaded her stuff into the drive.
I'll be doing West Street this week, probably.
Question about what you want us to do once we have finished going over everything. Did you want us to like update corrections? Like I saw some highlights on the Macris post in the spreadsheets. I didn't know if do you want us to just like highlight them or actually edit them, or what are we doing there?
So here, I'll show you just what I did in mine, and you can make up your own system. It's okay. This is just what I did.
and is this, I didn't see anybody's input. No, I didn't see this on Google Drive. Are you,
Right.
is this in your own copy?
So I made my own, I pulled out the spreadsheet, and then I made my own notes on it.
Okay.
So my key down here at the bottom, I think I put it in here, purple is the wrong address. So then I made a note over on this column with the real address, with the current addresses, I should say. And then red are things that have been demolished, whether Macris knew that or not. And then the yellow ones are the ones that need further research.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that, like this house, for example, on French Street, when you look up on Google Maps, the house is still there. But when you drive down French Street, it now appears to be a brand new structure in that location. So just to understand, did they tear down the old structure and build this new? Did they renovate the other one significantly? The other one that I had, this one I can't tell if it's actually there just based on Google Maps, and I also can't see it from the road. This one I drove into the belly of UMass. I couldn't find it. My assumption is it's demolished. This one didn't, the picture in Macris didn't match what was there, so I'm guessing it's been demolished. And then I had another one, I don't know if I highlighted it. It's supposedly down Old Ferry Road, and it's this one, this broom tool shed, and the picture shows a dilapidated brick building. And if you know where Old Ferry Road is, you probably don't. It's kind of across from French Street off River Drive. It's not a road you drive down. It's not a road. And I definitely wasn't driving down it in February. So
Well, aren't there the barriers on it now? Because we used to drive down there a lot in high school.
I couldn't see one from the road. There could be one further down.
I think there, yeah, I haven't been down there in a hot minute, but we used to spend a lot of time down there in the late 90s as a teenage gaggle.
Doing everything above board, I'm certain.
Absolutely. Having a really good time.
And then, would you be adding, Diana, properties on these roads that aren't in Macris? Did you add those?
Yes, so that's my list here at the bottom.
Oh, okay. And how did you know what the circa, the year was? They had a plaque?
I used the Access GIS a lot, and I used Google Maps a lot, and so when I actually did drive around and I just noted some of the houses, like, that looks kind of old. So then I looked it up on the Access GIS, which does usually have a date of when it was built. This one, this 6 Millsite Road, I drove down in there, and yeah, it had a very faded plaque that started with 18. The information on Access GIS doesn't match that, but I mean, it's a teeny tiny yellow house that does look very old. So just some
And
more
what is
research to be done.
What is the website that you're accessing? Access what?
Sure, I'll throw that in the chat. 1 second. So it is a little clunky, but here, I'll share my screen again. So this is it, and then like you can zoom in.
Oh, okay, I've seen that. Okay.
And like these are all the different plots. So you can click on them and it'll give you a lot of information, like who the current owner is, when the house was built, other stuff that's not relevant to our project.
And this is right on the Hadley website, I think, right?
Yep, it links right from there. When you go to at least the building department, there's a link.
Okay, I remember that. Okay. Okay.
Now, is there a reason that there were so many properties that you found, Diana, that are not on the Macris? Is it just because it hasn't been updated in a long time, or like how come they were never added to begin with?
You know, I don't know the rhyme or reason. A lot of what is in Macris was done, I think, really when the database first was created in the 1970s. And then there was an update to a lot of our National Register listings in the 1990s. So I think, again, that's when a lot of the work was done. And then, I mean, I've come across some that are more recent, but I'm not sure who was inspired to add those. So, I mean, I think if it's in a national register, National Historic District on the Register of National Places, then a Macris listing had to be created for it. But the ones that are outside of that, that didn't happen.
I'm just surprised that there were so many that you found that were not even listed, that have dates that are clearly should be listed there, and they just got forgotten somehow. And then, you know, and then in driving around seeing a lot of these, you're like, why is this building on this Macris when it's, I don't know, seems like so insignificant compared to maybe some of them that aren't even on there.
I don't know if this was also a thought process when this like first got started, but in my museum work in the 1970s, there's this big movement to accession every single object in a museum, like down to like the stapler on people's desks. And so then 40 years later, 50 years later, people are like, this shouldn't have happened. And so now it's like this rollback of like deaccessioning all of these objects that never should have been accessioned. So I wonder if that was a similar mentality here, was that like somebody, kind of like we're doing now, went around with a list of all the houses from X year and said, this is it, we're adding it. One of the things on my list that was demolished was apparently a old produce stand on the side of the road, which from the picture, you can't tell that that's what it is. It looks like a teeny tiny wooden box, really. But that's apparently what it was, according to the Macros listing. So I think it also comes down to different people's styles and how and what they see as important. Maybe that was so-and-so's grandmother's vegetable stand, and therefore it has great importance.
Yeah, because on the Macros listing, because I've been going off of the larger listing on the site, and like a number of those are just barns or fields. I mean, like literally just fields, and then like a tiny barn. And you're like, well, I'm not sure this is exactly what we're looking for this tour here, but I mean, I guess it's good to have those things listed, but then it's surprising to me that actual structures from like the 1800s are just not even listed at all.
Maybe somebody with a great affinity for barns was the one who made these entries.
So I have mostly East and Middle Street, which you would think would be easy. And in a way it is, because I'm not finding fields that have no structures where Macro said they did, or vice versa. But I am finding in many cases the photos don't match. And there are new properties, and I kind of got caught up in my head the other day, just trying to like figure out how to record this, because it's like it's not consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm adding the new addresses if they're not in Macros, and I'm noting that the photo isn't correct. But there are a couple of houses that, well, we know the whole numbering system changed, and so we got to figure that out. I'm taking pictures of every property, and I'm just chipping away at it.
Thank you.
So if anybody has any suggestions, let me know, because I'm not encountering what you guys are encountering.
I
The
mean,
houses are there.
yeah, which is great. My best suggestion would just be to figure out a system that works for you. And then when we marry this all together, we can come up with a universal system.
And then, so at the end of this, it will be handed over to Chris to do what he's doing with this project, or is this for another purpose? I was starting to get confused on what decisions are going to be made off from this exercise.
So Chris had asked me if we had an historical inventory of the town. And I was like, no. So this is mainly that.
Okay.
So that's why we started with what already exists, the Macros listing. So we weren't completely reinventing the wheel. And then really creating an inventory that exists for us and hopefully future historical commissions. When I did reach out a while ago to the Massachusetts Historical Commission about updating Macros, that, in my opinion, was a very antiquated, arduous process. And ultimately, at this junction, I don't think is worthwhile for us to take on, because it would be a monumental task of what they are requesting. I was very foolish in thinking, oh, here's a login, go ahead and fix your entries. No, I think this system was invented in 1995 and they have not updated it since. So
yeah, it does not seem that user friendly, to be honest, like at all.
No. And I think that,
Macros.
Yeah,
at least they have the photos though, and they've got somebody hand wrote the specs of the house and what condition it was in, so it's documented and it was digitized, so that's good.
Yeah.
But I'm going down the street and I'm like, that's not this house. So Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Even in North Hadley, like a lot of the photos or the properties that are supposedly there look nothing like what's currently there, and it's hard to tell if like the photo is just really old and like siding has been redone or what, or if it's even the same structure. Because as we know, so many of the properties in Hadley are these old farms, and so many things have been added onto them that it like doesn't even look like the original property. So yeah, the whole system basically needs to be redone, but it seems like would be impossible to do that.
Yeah, so my thought process is we have this spreadsheet for us, and if it ever does become easier to update macros, then we are ready and good to go to do that. Something that was helpful for me was the two of the houses that I could not find. I put them on one of the Hadley Facebook groups, you're from Hadley if, because in the other group, my post was declined. Don't know why, but okay. And I immediately had responses from people telling me where they were, and I found them right off the bat. I just didn't think to look there. So if you are stuck on some, I would recommend doing that. You can say right off the bat, you're from the Historical Commission. This is the project we're working on. We're just trying to identify these houses and where they are located and if they are still there.
Yes, it was very helpful to talk to a neighbor because she just gave me the whole rundown on the entire street, and she lives there. And I was like, oh, I'm looking for these two buildings that like apparently no longer exist. And she told me like the whole entire story behind all of it. So I wish that there was just like a neighbor on every street that we could just talk to, like go to door. Hey, do you know what happened to these? And she even told me where the people were like living now, and it was like very helpful. I was like, can I just have you? Can you just come help us with this, please?
Get in the car.
Better yet, come on the tour.
Yes.
Okay, so is the deadline for this? Does Chris need this by the time we go on the tour, or immediately after? Or I know we were the first deadline was January, the end of January. So here we are, a month later.
Do your best. I know we're all busy people. So, I mean, it would be great to have it like with us on the tour so we can like sort of make notes, compare what we already know. I think it's good to go in knowledgeable on what we're seeing. Like for example, like I didn't know that so many of these houses were so old. And like, as we know, a lot of them don't have the plaques, so that's also not an indication. It's also interesting, in my opinion, to see how they were named, because again, that just seems to be whoever filled out the paperwork. That's either because sometimes it's a historic name and sometimes it's just whoever was living there at the time. So that's also sort of just an interesting provenance.
And we're not supposed to try to change that or update that, are we? Unless
no,
okay.
I'm not worried about that aspect of it.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on because we do have quite a few more things on the agenda. All right. CPA projects. Courtney, where are we with the walking tour?
So I met with Paradise Copies to look through another hard copy proof. I just wanted to print it one more time. And I noticed that some of the pictures were a little bit grainy. So I asked for advice on how to fix that. And they said they could put like a special coating on the paper to make it clearer. And he printed out a sheet of paper and it did look clearer. So he's going to get back to me on how much more that might cost and if that's within our budget. I imagine it's not, but I figured it's worth a shot. So, yeah. And then when I looked at the proof, there were a couple formatting issues, and now I'm fighting with Word to try to figure out how to fix that. So,
Classic Word.
mm-hmm.
Brianna, where are we with the driving tour?
Currently building a recording studio in my basement. So that's where we're at with that. So trying to figure out a way to do it at home, because I just don't think it's reasonable to try to get in and do it in the Goodwin building. I think it's not going to work. So hopefully I will have that done by the end of March and can go from there.
We did get the CPA at least approved our extension for the funds at the meeting that I went to 2 weeks ago. So no problem there. I think it does go to town meeting floor, but I doubt it would be an issue. When Alex was on at the very beginning of the meeting, he said he knew he owed you an email to talk about that. So it's on his agenda.
Okay, good. I was worried he had forgotten me, but
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not call him out, but when I had my meeting with the select board in January, I had mentioned that you were working on getting a date on the calendar with him.
perfect. I think we should hopefully be able to, anyway, there's a timeline for this, and I'm hopeful that in the next month or so we will have some sort of results either way.
Great. All right, Irene, house plaques.
Yeah, honestly, nothing since the last meeting, because at the last meeting I said I wanted to do a survey after the drive around. So I'm waiting for that to happen, and then I thought we would take a survey from the town and organize just some town feedback on updating the plaques in the homes.
That makes sense.
So that's that.
I also found a draft to Allison Donta Vedman about asking for the survey.
Great.
Turns out I
Thank
never
you.
sent it, so I will send that.
And when was it that she helped you with that, Courtney?
Last February.
Oh,
Last
okay. So
February
that's
or the year
recent.
before. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. That would be great.
All right. Any other questions about the plaques? All right. Use of the West Street Common. Mary.
I have made no progress, but Irene has joined forces with me and in fact is the only force currently doing anything. So she actually gathered some information she might want to share with us.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I reached out to Jennifer at the town hall, and I guess I stand corrected because I was concerned in the document that we weren't, the town wasn't asking for a certificate of insurance, but it is. And I didn't see that before. And I'm not going to question if it's adequate or not. It's not up to me. I'm not an underwriter, but I will go with that. The application is pretty thorough. Jennifer says they've met with the Hadley Asparagus Festival, the NEPM, a couple of times. And Mary, you and I are invited to their next meeting in March to listen in on the planning of that and the update of that. So that's available, and I'll get you the information. I don't remember it offhand. Then we also went through what Jennifer thinks is the what we've been asked to do is just the first 2 pages of the sort of usage and guidelines of the common, not the application itself.
Oh.
She updated that application in 2018, and that's been the application form that's attached to the Hadley Historical Commission guidelines for the last 6 or 7 years. So she's not seeing any need to make changes there. And then first pass it, I was like, well, I don't either. As long as you're getting the people, you know if food is being served and alcohol is being served, and there's a food safety, and the DPW was involved and the police are involved if necessary. Like, it seems like the application does adequately address the resources from the town that would be required. I don't know if the non-refundable, not the refundable deposit is enough, but what happens if there's a rainy day and people have ground up the common lawn? The DPW has to come and put new grass seed on it and grass grows. So I don't know what the costs are. But basically, the application process is different from the guidelines. So we
Okay.
should be looking at the guidelines that the Historical Commission established whenever that happened and make sure that it is current with what we believe how the usage should be. And so, Mary, your survey of the other towns fits right into that. And we should probably take a look at that. But in the meantime, there are events that have happened on the lawn, on the common, and she walked me through the different events, and we can share those with you later on. I don't think I need to walk through them right now, but some are sanctioned, some aren't, and there are other ideas for uses of the common that neighbors on the common, myself being one and Courtney another and a few others, would love to see being used, that space for the good of the town. And so this all kind of dovetails nicely together, that this was prompted by somebody being concerned about the Asparagus Festival. And we, have this opportunity to think of other ways to use the common for the good of the town. So Mary, you and I, we're going to team up. Okay, we're on it. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Just to provide a little bit of background, since it has now been, I think, over a year since this process started, the select board had approached us with a specific concern about the Asparagus Festival and the pre-meetings that the festival required, and how they didn't feel as though town employees were being compensated fairly for all these pre-meetings. And then that opened up the whole conversation of the guidelines and the application and all that kind of stuff. So it sounds like we have what the work we've done has been worthwhile. And I thank Mary and Irene for working on this. And we can talk about it more next month or the month after, whenever we're ready. And I just appreciate the work you guys have done.
Well, that's nice. Thank you. And Mary, your survey was great too, to see what other people are doing. I guess it was prompted by, okay, we've got this enormous event that is beyond anything that the town has ever taken on, and we're not directly involved in it, and yet the town resources are required, obviously, to support it. And when we go, we'll just double check and make sure that the DPW and the police and whoever in the town is resources are required are getting compensated. But in doing that, and that the insurance, and the liabilities is there. In doing that, though, the other side of that was, well, the town should get something for hosting this, and other people are coming. The organization is fundraising off of it, and we're not getting. We should get some booths, but I don't know. That's another conversation. And as long as the town is being compensated for the resources, to me, that was the first priority when I heard what the issue was, and whether the town should be comped a couple of booths for whoever. I don't know how you begin that conversation. I'm not sure at this point, at least for this year, if that's something we should even bother to bring up. I don't see it as in our purview to address.
Yeah, it wouldn't be our purview. I think it would ultimately come from town hall and perhaps working with those different nonprofits to say, hey, because we're providing this for you at such a nominal fee, would you be willing to provide us with an in-kind donation of waiving the booth fees for XYZ?
Maybe for next year.
Yeah.
And certainly not,
it wouldn't come from
that
us.
the Historical Commission should be, offering up. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to new business. The 2024 annual report is due March 1st. I can't remember. Did I send that around to you guys for feedback? I know I wrote it. I can send it again.
I feel like you did, but maybe that was last year.
I don't remember seeing it, but I do have to scoot off. I'm sorry, guys. I've had some unexpected dynamic changes here, so I appreciate all of you. Okay.
Don't even worry about it. Thank you, Dragon.
Yep.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Yep. I'll try.
All right.
I actually am going to say the same. My kids are like falling apart here. I have to go put them to bed. They're freaking out. So I will see you guys next week. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. No one else can leave because then we don't have a quorum. All right.
Yeah.
The next few things are quick. So I'll send the annual report again. CPA meeting was on February 10th. I was hoping Sherry would be here to provide a better update because I didn't take notes. I just sat there for over 2 hours before I finally got to talk. And it wasn't done when I used. So Alan made his presentations. They went well. First Church asked for more money for steeple project. That went well. They will vote on all these next time. What was a little interesting was Tim Neihart was there representing the planning board, I think, and he talked about adding signs to the common that would include a QR code where you could learn more about the common, how to use it. And Mary Thayer's like, the Historical Commission just put a sign on the common about the history of the common. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that. So she was like, why don't you connect with them? And I haven't heard anything. So we'll see if that goes any further. Another thing was, and this is a little later on the agenda, people expressed interest in the fountain that is on the common.
Oh,
so
good.
I think there is interest there to see it restored.
You know, it was interesting in the guidelines, things like fountains and benches and plantings and things like that were not part of the guidelines. So whatever that fountain is for the Lions Club, is that what that is?
Yeah, I think the Lions Club installed it. That's the provenance that we have. So I think those guidelines were created because of that stuff that was added to the common before those guidelines existed, where historically it wasn't there. So it's not historically accurate. Sometimes I hear a speech from a certain someone about the trees on the common and how they shouldn't be there. But I mean, our walking tour says that there used to be trees all over the common. So I mean, I think if I tried to cut down trees, people will be very upset. So I'm not going to touch any trees. But I mean, the idea I think is to not add more structures. So that's why those guidelines are there. But however, that fountain is an existing, in my opinion, historical structure.
Okay. All I saw was Lions Club fountain on the common, so I didn't know if that was new. So they want to fix it and get it restored?
So I do have that a little later. So let me just get through the next couple things just so I'm following the agenda. I know I kind of did skip ahead myself. The Historical Commission records, we bring this up every once in a while. The select board asked about them when I met with them in January. So I'm just wondering if anytime in the future, if people do have a little bit of time to try to find where they are. I heard they got moved to the Goodwin building. I have heard in the past that a lot of it are paper copies of what is in Macris. So I think it's a determination of, do we need to keep these physical copies if they exist digitally? And then what else is there as well? As far as I know, we don't have records floating around other places. The select board asked me if there was any basements we thought they might be hiding in. I guess that's a common occurrence for other boards and committees. And I said, not that I know of. We have a great Google Drive that we keep. I mean, this has been on the back burner for a very, very long time. So I'm not saying it's a priority, but if anybody did want to try to take that on, working with Town Hall, just to see what we've got.
In their basements or in the Goodwin?
In the Goodwin. I'm not worried about
Yeah,
this.
so I went to Town Hall about a year ago when we talked about this before, and that's all I could find was like a small box of things. But I know you were under the impression that there was a lot more stuff than what I had found. So it's got to be somewhere. So would we ask Alex to get in and look through what they have in the Goodwin, or?
Probably. I think he's usually the one that's in there for Hadley Media.
Mhm.
What I am remembering, and again, this was when I first joined the commission back in 2018, was at least one filing cabinet, if not two filing cabinets full of stuff.
Yeah, they didn't seem to know anything about that when I went.
And they used to be in the front room, which I think is now the town administrator's office on the second floor. If you are outside facing the building, it's the room on the right. And when they needed that room for office space, those filing cabinets supposedly got moved to the Goodwin. I'm wondering if what you saw, Courtney, is stuff we have received in the mail, because the last time anybody gave me any mail, it was just these two, like I'm talking like 2-inch thick packets of like all of the recent Macris listings. And I put them in the recycling bin because I
Yeah.
was like, this exists online. Why are you mailing this to me? Because it's not just like they just mailed me had these listings. They mailed me everyone's listings. And I'm like, thanks.
Mm.
So I'm wondering if this box that Courtney has seen is just like a backup of that kind of stuff, of just the state mailing it to us that we don't want,
Could be.
and it's not relevant.
Hmm.
I can try to sneak up, not sneak, I mean, go up to the second floor next time I'm at Goodwin for an Edward Hopkins meeting. Which I don't know if I just missed one or not. I think one's coming up.
Okay.
Although Alex is kind of mad at our group, but I think maybe I can get up there without causing any trouble, and just to see if there's anywhere where there might be filing cabinets.
Okay, would the Historical Society take, if there are filing cabinets, take the filing cabinets just to get them out of the town hall, or and
I
give
doubt
us
it.
time to look at it? Or
I don't think the
volunteers?
Historical Society has it. If they did, I think they would have reached out to us.
No,
Because they
not
would
that
want to
they
get rid of
have it,
them.
would they take them?
Oh,
Because I think the idea is get them out of the town hall or out of the town buildings and into the care of an historical agency that cares.
I don't, so these records ultimately, I'm foreseeing them being a lot of minutes from the past.
Uh-huh.
And maybe projects the Historical Commission has worked on. And so I'm not sure like what the retention policy is for a town commission.
Mm.
So like I don't know where they should live if they are backfiled, if you will. I'm wondering if that is something that exists actually in the library as a resource that people would want to research.
That's another idea. Yep.
I mean, I brought this up before COVID, we had been talking about a digitization project of them. And that was a collaboration actually with the town of Hatfield to like be able to afford this software to be able to digitize it and then have it live somewhere. And then that completely fell apart. So it's one of these things that I think, like Courtney said, she went there a year ago. Most likely when we met with the select board last year, they brought it up to us then too. And it got to the front burner, if you will, and we looked into it. No one has ever asked me for those records. I mean, occasionally, I haven't got one in a long time, but we would get like research requests on like, my house is such and such house. What do you know about it? And I'm like, here's the Macris listing. That's what I've got. So like, I don't think that that kind of stuff exists, maybe, but I ultimately think that whatever research was done on houses is in Macris or with the National Register listings.
And when was that though? That was like in the 70s? So does that, when does Macris update?
It looks like a lot of them were from 1985.
85, okay. And who does the town do that or does the state do that?
The commission, the Hadley Historical Commission put those together
Oh,
at the time. And then they got uploaded into Macros.
got it. Okay. Whoa, okay.
Alrighty. Okay. Any other new business that you guys thought of before we posted the agenda? Or after we posted the agenda, excuse me.
I have an update for Railroad Street.
Okay, great.
Should I share that now?
Sure.
Okay, so we had discussed it's called the Hadley Onion Association warehouse. It's the 2-story big brick building. I had reached out to a board member to see if she knew anything that was going on with that building because there was some activity on the outside about 6 months ago. The select board member told me today that it has been sold, but was never officially posted, I don't think. It was sold for, they think, $575,000 to an individual whose name is, I think Kevin, let me pull up the email. Kevin or Keith Rabane, Rahbein. Does anybody know who that is? So they own US Metal Roofing. And it's my understanding that this person is also in touch with Barry Roberts. So I think this is all exciting stuff. But I also am nervous that it could potentially be demolished. So I wanted to get in touch with this Rabane person, just to let him know that, we're a resource here and I'm also nosy and want to know what's going on. If that's appropriate for me to do on behalf of the commission. Or I could just be nosy and be a resident on West Street.
Is this in Macros? Is it in the
It is. Yeah.
listing?
Oh yeah. Let me send you, I'll send you the link and then I think you have to download the PDF to view it. Let's see. Yeah, I had it open earlier.
I think the fact that it is in Macros, that gives you permission to say that you're representing the historical commission. We are interested in your plans for this building. We would
Mhm.
like to see it preserved as much as possible. We're willing to work with you on that, blah, 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 blah.
Great.
It was in the Gazette that it was sold. I just don't know.
It was?
Yeah, I didn't read it, so I don't know if it.
I can't find it
I'll try to pull
anywhere.
it up.
Because I get notifications when there's things for sale and I didn't see anything about it.
Yeah, my mom saw it and I was like, oh, we've been watching that building. I'm
Oh
trying
my
to find it.
gosh.
When was it sold, Courtney?
I'm not sure. Somewhat recently, because I was in touch with a select board member like
Yeah,
3 weeks ago and there was no update. So within the last 3 weeks, I think.
All right. Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah.
All right. I have not heard anything more about the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution or anything going on in town. After our last meeting, when Alan reported that Porter Phelps did get the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism grant, their chairperson of the board did reach out to me and also tell me that they did receive that grant. So they are at least planning things, but other than that, I have not heard anything.
That's great.
Yeah.
How much
Very
is the
exciting.
grant?
I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look.
Wow.
They have a
For
couple
two-
specific stories they want to tell. I think one is about a former enslaved person at the house. And then one, this is actually, I didn't know about this. They had a Hessian soldier who worked at the house. So that's definitely a different bent to the Revolutionary War story.
Hmm.
Okay, well, back to the Lions Club fountain on the Common. So, I'm not sure what year this dates to. And this is a decorative fountain. I don't believe it's a drinking fountain. But there was interest at CPA at seeing it fixed up again. And so I know Courtney had been interested in potentially submitting a CPA application in the future to do that. Do you have any more thoughts on that, Courtney?
No, it was just something I was wondering about. I don't know if anyone thinks that would be a good idea or not. I mean, personally, I know this is farther down, but was it the women's
That was just a note I made for
WQ
myself, yeah.
fountain, to me, I think is more interesting and more historical than the Lions Club fountain. But
Oh, hold on. The what? The women's what?
Sorry, I spoke over Courtney. So I had made a note to bring up the Women's Christian Temperance Union fountain. So that is the little concrete structure in front of Town Hall. And so that was installed in the early 1900s, and it was once actually a drinking fountain. So the water in that was potable for humans and animals, most likely horses.
So you would want to move it to where the Lions Club fountain is now, or
no, just fix it up.
Just make it work again, if that's even possible.
oh, but not on the Common.
No. It would stay
Oh,
where it
okay.
is.
Okay.
I just, because we were talking about this, that was just another fountain that exists in town that does not run anymore. And has not run in my entire lifetime, and most likely much longer than that. With the Lions
Has
Club,
anybody from the Lions Club reached out to anybody in the town about this?
so I reached out to a contact that I have in the Lions Club. There's no longer a Hadley chapter. He said he would ask around about it, and I never heard back. I could ask again, but most likely this might be outside living memory, especially since the Hadley Lions Club has disbanded. I mean, I don't necessarily think this is a priority project, but if it is a passion project, then I don't oppose it. I just want to make sure we don't stretch ourselves too thin.
Yeah. And it was built in 1955, the Lions Club one.
Okay, I'm gonna just, and maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should do when there isn't a quorum.
We have a quorum.
No, when there isn't a quorum.
And we're not being recorded.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fair. We can chat some other time.
I mean, just what's the significance of it going forward? And is anybody around who cares about it? And since the guidelines of the Common don't any longer allow for fountains and other structures to be built.
I mean,
if there's no obligation, and maybe even just get rid of it.
if
There, I said
it. I'll take a devil's advocate. If we do ultimately go with the idea down the road of sort of that 70-year time frame of what's historically significant in town, then as of right now, that does fall in that time frame, 1955. We're just there. I think if we did try to demolish it, we would definitely have people come out of the woodwork who are upset about it. So we just have to be ready for what that would look like. I mean, ultimately, right now it sits there, doesn't do anything. No one seems to be really upset that it's just there. And we could do a little bit of research to see what it would cost to get it up and running, what the upkeep of it would be. I think that would be the biggest hurdle, would be having the town agree to the upkeep of it. Because I'm guessing that is why it currently doesn't work, because that just fell by the wayside and it wasn't seen as a priority.
So how did this come about, though? How did it get on the agenda? Who mentioned it?
I probably did.
I think it was Courtney originally, yes.
Oh, when I was doing research for the walking tour, trying to find out the history of the fountain. And so I posted, I think, on one of the Hadley pages and learned a little bit more. And, it's not working. So it's like, oh, as a as a resident of West Street, how cool would it be to have a fountain that worked?
Okay.
And then I was
And-
like, well, it's historical, so maybe.
Am I,
It will, or it will be in 35 years or so.
the 100th anniversary, perhaps? Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, but did there also used to be in that area some picnic tables
I think so.
and like trash cans?
Yeah, I think
There is a
it's
trash can.
just a little kind of a circular area there with a fountain and
There's a bench.
maybe benches.
Oh, there is and I'm looking at Google Maps and there's a picnic table sitting there, but I don't know if somebody just like placed it there because they wanted
I
it.
mean, I kind of remember it, but I don't remember anyone really using it, but
Yeah,
I remember it being there.
Yeah, there's still one picnic table there that people sit at.
And there's a bench,
Or maybe
On
it's
the-
just the
on the-
bench. Maybe it's just the bench.
on the bike trail.
Yeah.
yeah, I see the benches over by the bike path. This is the picnic table on Google Maps. I mean, I don't know how recent this photo is. It's showing fall, so whenever they took this in the fall. There is a picnic table sitting there, but I don't know like why.
Mhm.
Like, did people who just want that picnic table there put it there? Did the town put it there? Yeah. I like feel as though this area, like with these trees here, I want to say the Lions Club also planted these trees. And they like the idea was to make it a little more of a park-like area.
Mhm. Mhm. And that was in the 50s.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think 1957 or 58 is when the trees were
And
planted.
it's it's sort of up by Route 9, that area between Route 9 and the bike path.
Yep.
Mhm.
Exactly. Well,
Whoa. Okay.
it sounds to me right now that this is not a priority, but we can keep it on the agenda for the future discussions, and if it does become a priority, we can move forward with it.
Sounds good. Is that the same for the WCTU fountain?
I think, yeah, as of right now, I mean, ultimately, if this is something we are interested in, I would want to do both if we could.
Yeah.
I mean, the WCTU fountain, like I said, that dates early 1900s. So, I think that will be a much bigger restoration project.
Mhm.
It is cracked, so I don't know
Mm.
if we could at least get that fixed in some way. It might not ever hold water again, but if we could at least save it from deteriorating further.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. So my last thing on the agenda is the next meeting date. Probably should have talked about this when the rest of the gang was here, but I mean, if we were looking at fourth Tuesday, that puts us at March 25th.
Works for me.
Too.
Good.
Let me double check. I'm pretty confident that's fine. Might have a meeting in the afternoon, but it shouldn't affect it. Okay, March 25th it is. All right, so nothing else is on the agenda. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Do I
Second,
have okay, roll call vote. Mary,
yes.
Irene,
Yep.
Courtney,
Yep.
and I vote yes. All right, thank you guys so much.